herbs for health and healing. And so let's start by considering just exactly what is an herb. How is it different from other plants? An herb is a plant with leaves, seeds, or flowers that is used for flavoring, for food, for medicine, or for perfume. If you think about that a moment, this is a really wide definition. It includes a great deal of the plant kingdom, since so many plants are excellent for human use. So let's spend a few minutes together peeking into the beautiful diversity and power of these amazing plants, shall we? To begin our discussion, just let me give you a little background on myself and my knowledge and experience with herbs. The plaque in the upper left-hand corner says, "The kiss of the sun for pardon, the song of the birds for mirth. One is nearer God's heart in a garden than anywhere else on earth." And that's a delightful little poem that was on a plaque when we bought a little farm that we live on in Illinois 33 years ago. And it became and has become kind of the theme of our lives here, and my life in particular. So I thought I'd share that with you, because just recently I painted that plaque and put it on a post and stuck it in the garden. It's been hanging around in my yard for all these years, but now it's kind of official. So my interest in health and healing really began in earnest when I got pregnant, and then when I had children. I have 2 sons. And I got interested in, how is my family going to continue in a healthy way? And so I began to read different books, to go to conferences and local herb society meetings, and gain experience just by using different herbs and remedies in my own family. I also grew herbs in the garden, which gave me hands-on experience. And I was really motivated by the fact that I could handle most of the minor complaints in our family without visits to the doctor. So after that, I decided to take a wonderful correspondence course created by the lady in the picture on the lower right. Her name is Rosemary Gladstar. And she is a renowned herbalist who is considered to be the grandmother of modern American herbalism, because she founded some herbal schools and different companies, and she has written many, many books. She also founded an International Herb Symposium, which happens every other year, and she gathers herbalists from all over the world to give presentations on how herbs are used in their countries. Her course is called The Art and Science of Herbalism, and it really is both an art and a science. So it's an excellent, excellent in-depth training tool that I have learned a lot from. In the book of Romans in the Bible, it says, "Since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, eternal power, and divine nature have been clearly seen. God himself claims he utters one of his loudest voices through his creation. Through it, he invites us to see his character, his love for detail and precision, his love for color and beauty, his sense of humor and absurdity, his awesome and sometimes terrifying power, his passionate love for what he has created. God is light, and that light sustains all life on this planet. Not only is God light, but he's also love. And let me tell you, he loves a lot. He especially loves people. People like you and me, who are the most specially designed of all created things. Our bodies, our minds, our ability to create and to think, all of these abilities are expressive of his great love. Truly, like King David in the Psalms, we can declare with wonder and joy that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. I love knowing that God is a gardener, both of plants and of people. Like with plants, he tends to us, nourishes us, and gives us abundant light and living water. Like seeds, we each are full of all kinds of potential for growth and beauty. God's word also promises us that there will be leaves from trees used to heal people from all nations. I'm really looking forward to that worldwide future reality. But until then, I also believe he has built into this marvelous planet a lesser ability for plants to heal us now, today. So I have become convinced that it is 100% true that herbs are good for you. So you might ask, why should I learn about herbs? What's so important about herbs? Well, I find it very empowering because you have some control over your health in a way that you wouldn't otherwise, and it boosts confidence in dealing and caring for our families. We're also not so dependent on the medical world, which can be expensive and sometimes frightening. It's cheaper to order supplies and make your own products, and supplements and whatnot can be far less expensive, especially the insurance companies in our country pay exorbitant amounts for medications and whatnot. It can reduce our stress, both physically and figuratively, because some of the herbs are good for anxiety, and it also reduces the stress of medical issues in our families at times. It increases our trust in God and his creation and the beautiful things he has made, and helps us to see his design and the beauty of it. Using herbs can be practical and convenient. You might have a pot growing outside your front door, or in your garden, that you can just grab some herbs and use them as needed. It's a fascinating and extensive world of discovery. You can involve your children and let them help you make remedies, or teach them about some of the ones that they can learn to love. And also, it's really fun. So did you know that the healing power of plants has been harnessed since the very day that God created the heavens and the earth? The Bible speaks of things like poultices used on kings, and wonderful spices and herbs that were brought to baby Jesus when he was born by the wise men and things like that. So the Bible tells us about these kinds of things. They've been used since ancient times. And every region and culture of the world, even through history, has had its own set of herbs and medicinal plants that they have used. There are herbs specifically that work on different parts of your body. For example, some herbs are really good for your liver, some are good for anxiety and that kind of thing. So they're fascinating that there are so many plants that can be brought into play. Often blending herbs together creates a real synergy, so that the herbs have even more powerful effects, or even more flavor and things like that. Eating herbs is fun and delicious, and it also is very good for us. I just learned myself recently that cilantro, which is a really popular herb in our country because we love it in tomato salsa, but I found out it's an amazing herb for detoxing our bodies, and I didn't know that, so I eat more now. It's good to get the heavy metals and some of the pollutants out of our system. Herbs are also generally without the same kind of sometimes devastating side effects that pharmaceuticals can have. So if we can choose an herb over a medicine, sometimes that's really a good choice. They can be important in the aspect of having a healthy lifestyle. We can just add that in with exercise and eating well as one aspect to improve our health. And we can even make our own herb blends and all, which is an inexpensive thing. That's what that little machine-like thing that's on the picture there is, a way to encapsulate your own herbal capsules. So how do I get started with herbs? Say I'm interested, what do I do? Well, first I say, be patient. It takes time to become familiar with a lot of the herbs. So start small and familiarize yourself and experiment, and don't give up if you have a few failures. If you give it some time, it will grow and you will have some fun. So first you can get some inexpensive seeds and just plant them. That's kind of basic. Or you can buy plants rather than waiting for seeds to germinate, and grow them in your garden, in your yard, in your windowsill if you don't have a garden or a yard. Then you can grow more and experiment and discover different ones that you have a real affinity for or that you use a lot, and maybe even expand and add more herbs. This year in my garden, I added more of calendula because I find I use it for a lot of skin ointments and salves and whatnot that I make. And if you don't have a space to grow things, well, you can also buy dried herbs in bulk. That's an inexpensive way to have a long supply of herbs. You can buy remedies and supplements. You can make teas or buy herbal teas. And you can even expand into the idea of essential oils, which are the potent essence taken from herbs. Then if none of those options work, or perhaps they all work and then you want to take it one step further, you can also wildcraft plants, which means you can discover in your area there are plants growing in the wild that you can harvest. Now, you don't want to take all of them, because if it's a natural habitat, you want them to continue in that area. But for example, in my life, I found just this year on the edge of a creek near my home is a wild elderberry growing. So I'm going to go when the berries are ripe and harvest them and use them in some remedies. So why grow your own herbs? Well, as the little yellow guy in the corner shows, it makes me, anyway, very happy. But there's other reasons as well. Herbs are really easy to grow. At least a lot of them are. They are pretty hardy plants. That you can then have a freshness and an organic herb that doesn't have pesticides or herbicides, and a quality that is higher than most of what you can buy. It's less expensive than store-bought. You can get hands-on experience. You can harvest your herbs at their peak potency, so they'll have their highest value and use. It's fun and educational. It supports the pollinators, which is a real global problem, is that we're losing a lot of the insects that support especially food plants, and so helping support them is a great thing in our day and age. It's good for our souls. I believe honestly that, you know, being in nature and working with plants and watching the miracle of a seed develop is really good for our spirits. They bring light and beauty into your life. A lot of herbs bear flowers, and so you can have the dual purpose of having a medicinal plant that also is beautiful. Remember, God was a gardener. And you can dry them and use them over time. So, and preserve them in other ways, like tinctures and oils we'll talk about in a bit. So there's a wild and wonderful world of herbs out there. Can you tell I find it exciting? I challenge you to catch the wave and see where it leads your life. So here's just a sampling of some popular examples of herbs. The list could be much longer, but I'm just going to go kind of quickly through this and show you different specific categories of herbs that are just a sampling of some in these categories. And they're all easy to access or easy to grow. Some of them, like the mints, are great to keep in a container because they're kind of invasive if you put them in your garden. But you in South Africa have one of my favorite of all herbs, which is the rooibos herb, which I didn't even know about until we were able to travel to South Africa and be with Lucas and Leona a few years back. And now I drink rooibos almost every day. It's so delicious. And it's also good for skin and all kinds of things. So it's a lovely tea herb. But you can look at this list and see there's all kinds of plants out there waiting for discovery, perhaps. So I wanted to take you on a deeper dive with just one herb. And I want to take it in a little more detail to help you see the complexity of the actions and the uses of one marvelous plant. And it's representative of all the other plants that are out there. So I want you to meet my friend, and her name is Melissa. And I just call her that because her scientific name is Melissa officinalis. And the common name is lemon balm. Perhaps you've grown some, or you've heard of it, or you've smelled it, but it's really a lovely, lovely plant. That's a herb plant, lemon balm that's growing right now out in my garden. I just took the picture of. So I call this plant a her, both because I love it like a friend, and it's affectionately called by the first part of its scientific name, Melissa. So if that's your name, you probably already know that Melissa means bee or honeybee. As with most plants, lemon balm has a variety of names, and that's what this word cloud shows you. Like I said, the word Melissa comes from the Greek for bee or honeybee, and it was probably named that because it has been used from ancient times to attract bees for people who are producing honey. It's a refreshing, it has a refreshing lemony flavor and has been described as the very essence of spring. So it is an amazing little plant. Here's some facts about lemon balm. It's not a fussy herb to grow, and I personally think it gives optimal output for minimal input by the gardener. You can see here some of the basic characteristics of the plant. It's perennial, so it'll come back year after year. It doesn't mind too much whether it's in sun or part shade. It's easy to establish, it's easy to propagate. You just dig some up, and as long as it has a good chunk of root, you can plant it and you'll have 2 plants next year. The leaves is the part that is most commonly used for teas and medicinal products, and it does spread easily by seed. Probably of more interest to us are some of the primary healing qualities of lemon balm. So it's very high in antioxidants, which means it's really nutritious and good for your body to help build vitamins and keep your body strong. It can help alleviate female problems like PMS, premenstrual syndrome, or cramps and things like that. It has antiviral properties, which is something that we're kind of interested in this day of a pandemic in our world. Also, another thing that might interest us in this day is it reduces anxiety, depression, and nervous tension. It can also help promote restful sleep because it just has a calming effect. It helps produce the amino acid GABA, G-A-B-A, in our bodies. It also calms indigestion, gas, and bloating, so it helps with our digestive issues and problems. It soothes skin. It can aid in cognitive function and relieve headaches. It tones the heart and the circulatory system. It is specific to helping with canker sores and herpes simplex if you have any of those issues. And like I said, it's very useful in drinking a cup before an hour or so before bedtime can help us sleep more peacefully. It's also useful in treating fevers, and because it tastes so good, that's a good one to remember when we might have a child who has a fever. So it pretty much looks like it's universal in action, doesn't it? If you have an ailment, lemon balm will probably help. It's one of those amazing plants that is delicious, gentle, and medicinal. It can act with healing properties on multiple body systems. And one of its most popular qualities is flavor. It smells and tastes like lovely lemons. What could be better than that? So it can be used in ways like baking it into desserts or teas or cakes. It's one of my favorite teas. Mostly through the summer, I make a big batch of lemon balm and add some honey and drink on it when it's hot. It's a great herb for children, as I mentioned. It can be made into syrups. You can substitute it for lemon juice and zest in recipes that call for lemon. It can be added to all kinds of desserts. You can use the leaves to garnish. It's really nice to flavor water. If you're trying to drink more water and want a little flavor to it, just throw in some leaves of this lovely plant. It's often used for cooking entree, main courses like pork or fish. And you can add it to green salads, fruit salads, or vinegars. And if that wasn't enough, let me show you this slide, which just gives you a variety of pictures to show it has so many other uses as well. You can use the essential oil to diffuse into the air, which helps calm and smells really good. You can look there more carefully at those pictures to see some of the other ways it can be used. It can even be added to popsicles. To me, that's really nice because I like to make popsicles when it's hot, which it is now in our summertime. So the list is long since this herb is both a medicinal and edible masterpiece. A word of caution must be spoken, however, before you go munch down a whole lemon balm plant and think all of your ills will be cured. All herbs should be treated with reverence and respect, since they do indeed impact our bodies in a variety of ways. In the words of my herbal mentor, Rosemary Gladstar, few herbs are actually toxic, but just about any herb may occasionally stimulate an idiosyncratic reaction in an individual. That means you might have an allergic reaction or a problem with certain herbs, or if you take too much or that kind of thing. So you should be cautious and wise about how you use them. Do your homework and learn about them first. They're safe, but don't overdo them because they do affect your body. Take small doses and test them out. Something like lemon balm I wouldn't be too worried about, or lavender, or some of the milder, gentler herbs, but always be careful. Stick with the most mild herbs, especially if you're using them for children. Remember, children under a year old should never eat honey because it might make them ill. Teas, tinctures, and syrups are less concentrated, so you don't have to be as worried about that as you might if you have a concentrated herbal supplement, perhaps that has extra potency. So be cautious and wise about how you use it. Take note of the changes or effects on your body. If you feel more calm when you drink lemon balm tea, then you know, hey, this is a good fit for me in my life. And try different herbs until you find the ones you like best. So I wanted to share with you a few recipes that you could use for lemon balm, and I'm not going to go into great detail about them, but I just thought it might be fun for you to see some ways it can be used. And the first and foremost is tea. The second one is a tincture, which is a concentrated extract of an herb. And the process that I've picked these three recipes, you can apply any other herb other than lemon balm and do the same procedure, and you'll end up with a tea or a tincture or an infused oil. So the tinctures are usually used specifically for medicinal application, and alcohol is the most common solvent, which is something that kind of breaks down the nutrients in that herb and brings it into its liquid. So they're very potent, and they're usually taken by the dropper full in water or juice. And then this is a solar infused oil, and making herbal oils is quite simple. It's just add a bunch of herbs to a jar, add oil on top. Often olive oil is a common oil that people use, and then let it sit out in the sun or in your windowsill in the sun for a period of time, and you'll have a lovely smelling oil that can be used for salves and ointments, or you can make it into massage oil or hair oil or skin oil or culinary oil. There's just no end to the ways you can use infused oils. So as I said at the beginning of this talk, herbs have helped me personally to know God better. He gives each of us really good gifts in our lives, and I consider herbs to be among those blessings. My hope is that perhaps this bird's eye view of herbs will draw you to him, his herbs, and better health as well. So thank you for your attention, and have a plantastic day.
Dana, you will